could get used to this.
All right, and if you are ready, we'll start with our first question. We all know that you were a farm boy in Pennsylvania and New York. So what led you to the law? You served a variety of clients and have an excellent reputation. What was your training?
Training. Training. Okay, well, I thought he would say, what is your education? But I guess they're the same thing. Training. See, I think training is an important thing to have, and you get trained in many different aspects of your life. My initial training was, as I heard, somebody was talking about Spring Creek. Who was that? But anyways, my first training was at Spring Creek. As a boy, I was on a part of a farm family, and believe me, you got trained. You knew what to do. You knew how to do it. You knew where the tools hung. And boy, if you didn't hang that tool back, my father let you know about it. You knew where the tools were. You knew where the animals were supposed to be. So my training, the training that is the basis of a whole bunch of other things in my life that we'll probably talk about a bit, was in Spring Creek on the farm. We moved to Frewsburg. The move to Frewsburg was a good one because we lived way out in the middle of nowhere, and we moved into the big city of Frewsburg. For all of those of you that have experienced the nightlife of Frewsburg, you know what I'm talking about. So we moved to Frewsburg, where my father had a livery stable, and for a while we had a small hotel, and I went to school there, and I was trained to be a student. I knew I wanted to remember this from last time we talked. Part of my training, the most important aspect of my training, I think, was listening. I learned to listen. Listened to my father when he told me how to do things. I listened to my mother when she read to me. I listened in school, and I think listening is an important part of one's life. One's training, if we're going to use that word, training. So, all right, you have to keep me on task, Carl. So I went to school in Frewsburg, and then I was through there, and I was still quite young, and I did another year at Jamestown High School. And I think I was trained in a different way there, but training nonetheless. It was more of an intellectual training. There were no tools involved. But there was listening involved, and my training at Jamestown High School with some wonderful teachers, Mary Willard, Milton Fletcher, and many others. I don't want to leave anybody's name out, so I won't mention a bunch of names. So my training there was as a student again, but at the Lyceum, which was the debate club. Debate. The classroom and the courtroom. That went together pretty quickly for me with debate. And when we debated, of course, we debated in a much better fashion some of the students from Warren. That was one of our rivals with our debate club. But with the Lyceum, the training in the classroom to be a debater. I don't know if anybody, raise your hand if you were part of a debate club. Just you and me? That's it? Oh, okay. 3. Okay, good. Well, debate, they don't really do it much anymore. But debate clubs were really important. I think they excuse me if this sounds rude, but they raised the caliber of the school because you had students who weren't just sitting, but they were listening and they were responding, and they knew how to find the answers that teachers don't always have. And sometimes that may not have been the way the teachers would like that to go. But so that training was important, and that training I mentioned, classroom, courtroom. I moved to work with Frank Mott, who was a lawyer in Jamestown, offered me the possibility of reading law in his law office. He was a distant cousin of my mother's, and he was a I can't give Frank enough credit, but anyway, he was a wonderful man. My father didn't care much for Frank. He didn't care for Frank, he thought he was a spendthrift. He had what do you call it, a natural resistance to lawyers. My father had that. So and my father wanted me to be a doctor. So my father wasn't necessarily supportive of all the things that I wanted to do. And, it's maybe about him a little bit later. So I had the extremely fortunate opportunity to work with Frank in his office and to read law, to follow him around, to be... are we going to do that mentor question?
We'll do that later.
Okay, all right. I don't know what we're doing. So when we get to mentors, you'll hear about Frank Mott again. But Frank let me fail, which was, I think a mentor does that, or I think a friend does that. Frank taught me a great deal, and my time in his office was well spent. I went to Albany Law School. Is that what you're looking for? Lawyer training?
Yes.
I went to Albany Law School for 1 year. I did not graduate. I received a certificate of attendance. Well, that was a slap in the face. It was a wonderful experience, but I couldn't take the bar exam until I was 21. And then all my other training, it's back to Frank, because Frank took me with him. So I became involved with the Democratic Party. I became involved with local organizations, with the State Bar Association and so forth. So I trained with teachers, my family, and lawyers, and as I became that young lawyer in Jamestown. So, is that it? That's it. Oh, good.
That sounds good. I really enjoy the way the writer wrote this particular question. Many times you are pictured with an animal, usually a horse. Can you tell us how your interest in horsing around developed?
Horsing around, yes. Well, horsing around was, I guess that's pretty accurate. If you have, when I answered this last time, I thought I didn't answer it well. Because there's two words for me that go with having horses. Responsibility and freedom. The responsibility of having a horse, it's not a puppy, it's not a kitty that you don't see until you have to clean up after it. But a horse is a friend. A horse works with you, right alongside you. A horse is your transportation, your recreation. A horse is an investment. You can get a puppy or a kitty for nothing, but that horse is not nothing. You got to pay for that horse. And I think my father having that livery stable really, this is very slippery. I think my father having that livery stable was really instructive for me. And horses have been with me, all through my life to this point, and I can't imagine not having a horse. We didn't have a car until 1919, so there was a whole bunch of years without a car, and then even after that, we still have the horses. The horses were our recreation. We rode down here to Warren. I rode with many Warren people, John Blair, Harry Conroe, a lot of people, the France family, the Kays. We were in Warren, on a regular basis, and the Warrenites, as I used to call them, the Warrenites came up to Jamestown and were out on the boat with us on the lake, or were part of the horsey set, as my wife called it. Well, my wife said something else too. Can we show this?
Sure.
Speaking of my wife and horses, this is a picture of Irene and I on two of our horses. I'm not sure who they are. Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Let's see, who are those horses? Gray Ghost, and I think it's Happy Days. The horse, we named it Happy Days. You know that song, Happy Days Are Here Again? Well, I think we named the horse after that song, and it was always happy days with horses. Well, why don't you pass it? You can pass this among yourself. It's not a family heirloom. But this is Irene and I think that's Lake Chautauqua in the back, and we did a lot of horseback riding. We also were involved with horse shows, horse clubs, the Lakewood Saddle Club and the Moonbrook Saddle Club, the Chautauqua Stock Organization. So, and we played with horses. We had fun with horses, and I can't think of I can think of one other thing to say about horses. Irene always said, well, when we go to the poorhouse, at least we'll go behind a good horse. And I think that was her way of telling me that we were spending too much money on horses. But can't you just see it now? Irene and I in a buckboard with the kids and all our belongings behind us, and we're headed down the road to the poorhouse in DeWittville in Chautauqua County. But that never happened. But horses were always an important part of our family life. Yes.
Now,
yes.
we get to the mentor.
Oh, the mentor question.
Please tell us about someone that you admire who was a mentor or a role model. In short, tell us about someone that you looked up to.
Okay. Well, I was first asked this question by, oh wait, let's do this first. Where's the dictionary?
Oh, I didn't bring the dictionary.
Oh.
But since I knew the question was coming up.
I asked Carl last time to define the word for us, because people think, oh, I know what a mentor is, a mentor, but they don't. Carl, define mentor for us.
According to my dictionary, a mentor is a trusted counselor or guide, or otherwise a tutor or a coach.
Okay. What was that? Read that first part again.
A trusted counselor.
Trusted counselor.
Or guide.
Or a guide. Mm-hmm.
And a tutor or a coach.
I have my cheat sheet here because we've had this question before. So I want you to all think for a minute of someone who you would consider a mentor in your life. Just give you a minute. Oh, you don't have to answer it out loud. This isn't church. Okay, raise your hand if it was a close relative. Okay, here's the one that I always get a lot of hands. If it was a teacher. Oh, it was a teacher. Teachers are by job description are mentors. The first time I was asked this question, it was at Jamestown High School when I went to speak to a class of the debate team, and a student asked me this, and I really hadn't thought about it. So I gave it some thought, and well, I didn't give it thought until I was asked in Jamestown a while ago, and now I have that list that I am referring to. My mother, the job description of mother, although I've never actually seen one in writing, has to be mentor too. My mother was an organizer. My mother was a planner. My mother had vision. She had vision for me. I mean, for a kid, when your mother says, oh, you'll be able to do that. Oh, you'll learn this. Oh, don't worry about that. That's very comforting, very mentoring. Teachers, always teachers in Frewsburg, especially the teachers in Frewsburg as a young person growing up. And then we got to Jamestown, and there was Milton Fletcher, who was a history teacher. And Milton was always the teacher that you sat across the desk from, or if you sat in the classroom, and even if there was 20 other kids in the room with you, he was talking to you. You knew he was talking to you, and that he had, what's the word? He had an interest in you, and he had it was his duty, and that's the wrong word. It was his call to teach history, and he did a terrific job of that. He made it come alive. He gave you lists of people and lists of events, and then it was your job to scramble them all into history and make it come alive, and he did that for you. He never said, oh, history is events and people, but as he went through those events and those people, even if it wasn't chronological, you got that essence of the history that he was trying to give to you. Another teacher, we'll go to Frank Mott in a minute. Another teacher there was Mary Willard. Mary Willard was an incredible lady who did the same thing that Milton did. She took you in. She made you think that you were the only student that ever crossed her door sill that she had any interest in. And she was wonderful. She brought out things in people. She had authority. Ooh, don't you want to have authority sometime over something? Not authority that you would lord over someone, but authority that would make people seek you out or make people want to be in your company, you know? And authority, with authority goes authenticity, and Mary Willard was authentic. She was sincere, she was kind, modest, comforting, and very funny. She did a lot of, we would have readings at her house. She and her sister Vesta, they called their house Bohemia because they did a lot of crazy things, and we had readings, and I'm sure we'll have some of that. But she also, when I said the name Vesta, I thought that I brought this card. This is a card that I got from Vesta Willard one time. Mary and her sister followed me, or I followed them. I don't know what it is, through life, and they were wonderful helps to me. And always a card or something would come. And this was a card that Mary sent me, or that Vesta sent me, upon my leaving school in Albany. And she always had a little note that she would stick in it. And it says, "The world and I to you extend heartfelt congratulations. May fortune's favors have no end, exceeding all your expectations." And then she signs it, "Do try to be good." So that was the sense of humor that the sisters had. They were wonderful. One time Mary said, avoid mixing up tinsel with solid gold. Tinsel with solid gold. People look at tinsel. People look for that glitter on tinsel, but that solid gold sometimes just sits over there. We're catching the tinsel and not the solid gold. And the day she said that, I thought, what the heck is she talking about? But then it dawned on me how deep that was, how not revolutionary, but let's go with revolutionary. How revolutionary that was, that people would spend their life going after tinsel and avoiding the solid gold. And every year, every Christmas, when I put up the tree, I think of Mary Willard. Oh, Frank Mott. I almost forgot Frank Mott. Frank Mott was great. Frank Mott took me everywhere. Frank Mott made me go with him to all these meetings and places I sometimes didn't want to go, but Frank was great. I was going to tell you something else about Frank, too. Frank had I know what. I almost forgot. Here's my way of defining a mentor. Okay, so there's you and your mentor, and you're going along for a walk. Now, where's your mentor when you're going for a walk? Is your mentor back here pushing you, up here dragging you, or next to you as an equal? Don't answer. I'm going to tell you the answer to that. The mentor is sometimes behind you, and you're walking, and you're ahead because you've already got it, and you know that they're going to support you. Sometimes they're ahead of you, and you're trying to keep up with them, but you're thinking all the time. And sometimes they're next to you. They're never dragging you. A mentor doesn't drag you. A mentor doesn't push you. A mentor offers you that my mother offered me, that Frank Mott offered me for many, many years, and that Mary Willard offered me so graciously. That's my mentor story, and I'm sticking to it.
I must say I'm surprised. It sounds like there may be a couple people you've not mentioned.
Oh.
One of them being, of course, Franklin Roosevelt,
Yeah.
and the other being John Blair.
Well, John Blair was too much of an accomplice to be a mentor. John was a wonderful businessman, had an acumen for business that was unparalleled, but I wouldn't call John a mentor. We were friends, we vacationed together, rode horses together, but I think a mentor has to be there at a certain point in your life too, you know. And John was a great friend, but wouldn't make him. He's not on my list. FDR, Franklin, as I call him, Frank. No, a wonderful man, a man who offered me opportunities, who I very happily helped become governor of New York and helped him with his recent presidential run. But Franklin wasn't a mentor. You got to compare Franklin and my mother. I don't know. We'll stick with Frank Mott, my mother, and of course Mary Willard.
There were several versions of this next question, but I'm going to shorten it. We know that reading is important to you. Why?
Why is reading important? Oh, reading. Okay, so if I had a blackboard, I would write these down for you. But reading isn't just reading. Reading is listening. It's reading. It's writing. It's understanding. It's thinking. And then if you continued that list down, you would get to succeeding and understanding and growing, prospering. Reading is the thing that gives you the thing. That's the wrong way. Reading is the vehicle that gives you other people's ideas, historical insights. It gives you the essence of what's gone on before you and what might follow you, and kind of fills you in on what's happening today too. So reading has always been important to me. Always had a book. Histories, biographies. That's because of Milton Fletcher. Read all the classics. Had to read them. Mary Willard again. That name keeps coming up. She made us read things. Do you have something for me to read, Carol?
I do, as a matter of fact.
I knew he did.
I took a class from Mary Willard as well. And you may recognize this, her suggested reading list for students.
Oh, the infamous Mary Willard reading list. A course of reading, suggested for students, 1893. Well, I had her much after that, as did you, and she still used the same reading list. So, but I would dare you to pick this up today and know a lot of these people. Dryden, names that you know. Chaucer, Spenser. Chaucer we read in the Old English, by the way. And a lot of the nights at Mary Willard's house, we read these things. We recited. We memorized things. It was always an adventure. You never knew who was going to be there or what we were going to do, if we were going to listen to music or read or recite. But Mary Willard was always in charge of that. And this reading list is a real gem. Thank you, Carl.
I know also that you, when you got together at her house, that you would recite Shakespeare, and you even memorized Shakespeare.
Memorized Shakespeare.
So
anybody? Oh, really? Oh my gosh, good for you.
So I happen to bring this.
Yeah, I know. We had this before.
This is our complete works of Shakespeare.
Good old Bill.
And here is one of, I believe this is one of the passages that you have.
I hope it is. It is. Twelfth Night, or What You Will. Okay, this is what Mary Willard would do. She would, you notice I say Mary Willard, it's hard just to say Mary. Mary Willard seems to be so. Anyway, this is what Mary Willard would do. She would just hand you the book, she'd flip the page open, she'd say, Bobby, she called me Bobby, or Little Bob, would you read for us? And I would pretty much do that and read. This is something that I've read a couple times, though, so it won't be too bad. Shakespeare. This is the Duke. Who is this? The Duke, yes. The beginning of Twelfth Night. You may recognize some of this. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that my appetite may sicken and so die. Oh, that strain. It came o'er my ear. Whoops, where is it? It came o'er my ear like the sweet sound that breathes upon a bank of violets, stealing and giving odor. Enough, no more. 'Tis not so sweet now as it was before. That's what Mary would have us do. Usually it would be simpler. We'd have to memorize something. We memorized The Ancient Mariner. You all know it. Help me. Water, water everywhere.
And now to drink.
Water, water everywhere.
And all the boards did shrink.
And all the boards did shrink. And it's a lot longer than that. But we memorized that too. So that was the fun of reading. And that was the joy of reading, the fun of reading, the experience, and the challenge too with Mary Willard. Yes, sir. Next question.
Can you give us an insight into what propels you ahead in your work with your family and in the community? I think what the questioner is asking here is they're looking for a philosophy or a code of ethics. I think we can use the word beliefs. What beliefs propel you ahead in this community?
Mm-hmm. Beliefs. Well, if you have solid, let's use the word solid, firm beliefs in yourself, in the goodness of man, whatever those beliefs are, they lead you to have certain ethics, which will lead you to certain behaviors. Let's put an umbrella over this whole thing. The umbrella being, let me put it in the exact words I want to do it. The law is the guardian of our liberties. Okay, if that's your basic belief, that the law is the guardian of our liberties, we have to protect that law. We have to use that law wisely. We have to have a sense of who we are, have a sense of the community that we're in, have a sense of how things fit together in order to protect our liberties. And I believe, this is kind of a stretch, but I believe that it's the small town lawyers who are setting all this precedent, who are watching over this law, not creating it, but who are fostering it, feeding it. And those small lawyers will move on into cities and into corporations, and then we'll have a system in this country that works. This country is growing, Jamestown's growing. That growth, those factories, the furniture mart, all those other things that are happening not just because of lawyers, but with the help of lawyers who are instilling in people. When you leave this small town and you go somewhere else, here's what you take with you. Here's what you do with it. So that city, that government, that corporation has some ethics, some beliefs that they can bring into that community. In this community, there are organizations and individuals that make this community, that help this community, that are keeping this community growing, as there are in Jamestown. And without those core beliefs, without those ethics and those behaviors, well, it would be a sad day. So I'm not giving the lawyers all the credit, but I am saying that the law, the liberties that we have, need to be cared for and embellished, and it's lawyers that can do that. So what was the question? Would I stay on the question or no?
It was about your beliefs and how they propel you ahead in the community.
Mm-hmm. So I believe that we can. I believe in family. I believe in growth. I believe in students learning, where do you want me to stop? I believe in a lot of things, but I think my beliefs are tethered to Jamestown, to the organizations that I belong to, the people that I've had the extreme joy of working with. I'm not naming any of those people or any of those cases because that's the lawyer. What's that?
Well,
lawyer.
Privilege.
Client privilege. Right.
I took the liberty of taking some letters out of our files, and I promise I won't mention any names,
No names,
because some of you folks may know some of the people involved here.
Are you going to read those?
Because of your involvement in the community and your belief that the law is the protector of the community, I think these are good examples of how you have personally done that with some of these folks, and with your permission, I'd like to...
Let me say something first. All my time with Frank Mott, and then as I worked alone or with other people, Ben Dean and other people. I believe that everybody needs the comfort of the law, and I had many different levels of cases, you know, from small farms to big companies. I had clients, and a lot of clients here in Warren, and I gave them all the same. So I gave them the comfort of the law. Who you got?
Well, let me read. I've got 3 of them here. Dear Lawyer Jackson, I am writing this letter for my husband because he hasn't time to write because he has cows to milk.
It could have been any one of 50 people.
We want to thank you for the energy you put into our case about the property lines concerning our farm out here in Bustye. We feel that you gave us your complete attention, and what's best, you listened to us and then spoke our mind in words we could not discover for ourselves. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, and bless you and your precious family. Sincerely.
I know who that was. That was, boy, did we, and I say we because I work with other people, did we ever give them some comfort? They thought they were going to lose their farm and everything, but...
Dear Robert Jackson, this letter is sent to repeat our great thanks and to formalize what we here at, and I won't name the company, hope is the beginning of a happy and long-term client-lawyer relationship between our respective offices. Be assured that we have complete confidence in your abilities as a gentleman of the law, and we respect you for the courtroom expertise that you brought to bear during our recent legal difficulties. We remain sincere in our praise, yours truly.
Yes, let me see. Yeah, and that's an old letter, and we've been working with that group for many years now. Many of our clients have been around with us for some time now.
And the final letter. Dear Mr. Jackson, thank you for the wise direction which you advised when we met recently to determine a path forward for our lawsuit directed toward our uncooperative neighbors. We will work toward a neighbor-to-neighbor solution in this situation. It's comforting to have a counselor with common sense. Thank you.
That was me, the one with common sense?
That was you.
Yeah, well, that's true. We always tried to settle something, you know, amicably between the participants, and so when that happened, it was terrific. It didn't always happen, but it was something to shoot for. So, yes.
As a public figure, you nonetheless have an active and very private life. How do you manage that?
I call it life beyond the law, and there's a lot of life in me beyond the law. Although the law is important, I told you it's that comfort that I can offer. But I think in order to offer that, I had to be comfortable with myself, and I was comfortable with myself and with the people I dealt with. Jamestown, talk about Jamestown for a minute. Jamestown was of a size that I could keep it all in view. I felt that I could help it in its growth. And in order to do that, I had to be out in the community. I knew every neighborhood. I walked to work for many years, and I would take different paths. I would go through different neighborhoods. I knew the name of the guy that sold the newspaper. I knew milkman. I stretched and did that, and I felt like I was a part of that community. I didn't just know the few people that I dealt with on a business basis, and I didn't just know the guys from the Masons. I was a Mason, and I was in other organizations. Came here, the Masons met in this building. I came here for many meetings. But my life outside the law was always important to me. And again, that's back to the horses, coming down to this area, going to Spring Creek, fishing, on the road with travel with many, with John and Maud Blair and Harry Conroe, going to the Big Bend on the Allegheny. We loved the Allegheny, fishing in the Allegheny. Fishing in Lake Chautauqua those were all things that were important to all of us. We were happy, a happy family, and I think the big part of my life outside the law was family. Family was important. We did a lot of. One time, we went to a dude ranch. I don't know whose idea that was, but well, we had a good time with all the horse stuff. But then there was all that campfire stuff too going on that we didn't quite get it all. But we had a good time. We did a lot of vacationing, a lot of cruises, and took the kids sometimes. Didn't other times. Well, I have two children, Mary and William. In fact, Mary was in boarding school for a while with one of the girls from, who was that? I don't know, her first name, last name was Luce. And she was at boarding school with her. And William was down here, had girlfriends. And this was a community that was welcoming. Jamestown was welcoming. They were of a size that you were part of it. You weren't in your own little neighborhood. Although in Jamestown, there were Italian neighborhoods and Swedish neighborhoods and up the hill, up Willard Hill and so forth. But we still managed to be a community, and I was there for the growth, for when the Furniture Mart opened and when the Hotel Jamestown opened. And it's comforting to know that you're doing something that makes for progress in where you are, and that you can be a part of that. So my life beyond the law was very important.
You were very instrumental in the business community.
Yes, sir.
Here and there. And I took the liberty of taking this out of your office. This is a memento of your involvement with the Furniture Mart.
Yes.
And I wonder if you could explain what this piece is.
Well, I wasn't involved with furniture companies, although I seldom raised a hammer myself. And the furniture companies would make small replicas of what they sold. And the salesman would take these pieces and go around the country and sell them. And Jamestown had quite a reputation. And so at a dinner one time, this was given to me for, it doesn't seem like much, but to me it was very important. I had a note in it. No, it's gone. Must be gone. Wait, one more drawer. I had a note in it of the event, and I forget it all now. But it was given to me as a thank you for my part in the furniture company getting their feet on the ground in Jamestown. So, what else?
Well, I know that you have an engagement to go to.
I do.
But I wonder if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with.
Well, I just want to say that this is not a situation that's comfortable for me. I'm used to asking the questions, and instead of people asking me the questions. But and that situation always said to me, you need a summation. Bring this all together. I can't bring this all together. It was too varied. But the life of the courtroom always suited me because I could prepare. You know, I knew where I was headed. I needed an outcome, and I knew how to get there. And I learned that from my time as a debater at Jamestown High School. But now I'm content. I'm content to live